Have you ever noticed how insulting it feels when someone says, "Back in my day, we just did it"? Because you're not refusing work. You're refusing pointless work. You want the task, the purpose, and the time block to make sense. Psychologists call this self-regulation. It's your brain trying to lower chaos and raise control. And research on millennials keeps circling the same needs: autonomy, flexibility, meaningful work, and space for life outside the job. That's not a character flaw. That's a system mismatch. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Have you ever noticed how your mood drops the second someone says, "Just be here at 9," even if you were already planning to show up and actually do the work? It's not the hour, it's the feeling. The second the time is forced, your brain starts doing math you didn't ask for. Commute time, morning energy. What you'll lose if the first hour is pointless. Think about a normal day. You wake up and grab your phone. You check your calendar and it's stacked. 3 meetings that could have been an email. 1 quick sync that will not be quick. And then the weird rule. You can't start the project until after the stand-up. You can't leave early even if you finish. You have to keep the green dot on. So now your day isn't about work. It's about managing the system around the work. From the outside, people call your reaction attitude, like you're being difficult, like you're too sensitive. But psychologists call this executive function. It's the brain system that plans, starts, switches, and finishes tasks without falling apart. It's the part that holds the goal in mind while life keeps poking you in the ribs. And executive function hates sloppy structure. When the time block doesn't match the task, your brain has to do extra work. You're not just writing the report. You're stopping to join a call. You're restarting. You're waiting for someone else to finish talking. You're trying to remember where you left off. That's context switching. That's forced waiting. That's fake urgency. That's not grit. That's friction. You can feel it in your body. The low buzz, the tight jaw, the little spike of anger when the meeting ends and you have 9 minutes before the next thing, so you can't start anything real. And then someone says, "Just manage your time better." Like the problem is your character and not the calendar. But here's the thing. You're not avoiding effort. You're trying to lower chaos so you can actually focus. Psychologists call this self-regulation. It's how you keep yourself steady enough to do hard things on purpose. Same goal as the old school grind. Better method for a brain that's trying to protect its fuel. Because attention is fuel. Working memory is fuel. And every pointless switch burns it. Now let's think about control. Not control like power trips. Control like being able to steer your own mind. Psychologists call this internal locus of control. It's the feeling that your choices matter, that your actions connect to outcomes. When you can choose when and how you work, you feel like the pilot again. You can line up your hardest task with your best hour. You can batch the small stuff. You can build a rhythm. And that means less stress load on working memory, because your brain isn't spending all day bracing for the next interruption. Research shows younger cohorts tend to rate flexibility, leisure time, and work-life balance as higher priorities than older cohorts did at the same age. That's not a moral failure. It's a values shift. You watched what chronic stress did to people. You saw burnout get treated like a badge. So you started treating time like a real resource. Quick mini story. Think about school. You've got that strict attendance rule class. Same seat, same bell, same worksheet. If you miss a day, you're behind, even if you can learn fast. You feel trapped. Your grades slide, not because you're dumb, but because the system punishes your brain. Then you get one teacher who lets you show mastery your way. You can test out. You can do the project at home. You can prove you get it without playing the seat time game. Same student, 2 totally different outcomes. That's the payoff. This wasn't entitlement. It was executive function protecting your attention. You're optimizing for deep work, not clock time. Which brings us to the part everyone gets wrong, the word they use: entitled. There is something weird about the entitlement story. It shows up most when you ask for plain clarity. What's the pay range? Which days are remote? What's the point of the rule? Suddenly, you're high maintenance for wanting the map before you start walking. Imagine you're in a meeting room that smells like dry coffee. You've got a notebook open, you're ready to do the job, and you ask one simple question. Why do we do it this way? The boss doesn't look up. That's the policy. No reason, no goal, just tradition. And you can feel your brain hit a wall. Older folks often hear why and read it as pushback, like you're challenging them, like you're trying to get out of work. But psychologically, that why is a control check. Your brain wants the rule to connect to an outcome. If the rule helps the result, cool. If the rule is just a leftover habit, your executive function starts flashing a warning sign. Because executive function isn't only about focus, it's about aim. It wants a target. It wants to know what good looks like. So you ask for the reason, the goal, the metric. Not to argue, but to line your effort up with reality. It's the same reason you hate vague tasks like just help out. Help out how? With what? By when? But here's the thing. This isn't just you. It's also the culture you grew up in. Over time, researchers have tracked a rise in individualism, and you can see it in everyday language. More self-talk, more I and me. More focus on personal choice and personal meaning. So the pressure to ask, does this work for me? Isn't a millennial glitch. It's the water everyone is swimming in now, and there's a twist people leave out. That same individualism often travels with more tolerance, more support for equal roles at home, more acceptance across race, more support for LGBTQ+ rights. So the stereotype of selfish and spoiled doesn't really hold up, because a lot of the self-focus came with broader empathy. Psychologists call this a values shift, not a defect. You're not worshiping yourself. You're paying attention to identity, fairness, and choice, because those things became louder in the world around you. Now zoom in on schools and programs. A lot of them changed because you pushed. You wanted online options when you had a job. You wanted blended classes when you had a commute. You wanted a schedule that didn't punish you for having a life outside the building. That wasn't laziness. That was access. Because when access gets better, performance often gets better. People who couldn't show up at the right time could still show mastery. Parents, caregivers, people with health stuff, people who just learn better in quiet. The system didn't get softer, it got wider. Then there's the mental health layer. The old system runs on silence and stamina. Don't talk about stress. Don't admit you're fried. Just keep going. Millennials came up in a world where burnout has a name, anxiety has a name, trauma has a name, and therapy isn't only for emergencies. Critics call that soft. But it's a prevention strategy. You talk about boundaries because you've seen what happens when there are none. You bring up workload because you've watched people's bodies quit before their job does. You ask for a day off before you break, not after. This wasn't weakness, it was maintenance. Now, one important caution. Psychologists also warn that generational labels get sloppy fast. People vary a ton inside any age group. Some of what looks like millennial behavior is just being young, or being underpaid, or living through a weird economy at a weird time. So is the stereotype backed by clean data? Not really. The data doesn't neatly say millennials are uniquely entitled. What it points to is a broad shift toward autonomy and a loud refusal to waste time on low-meaning rules. Now let's land the real point. If you're the catalyst, what exactly are you changing next? Here's the final reframe. You're not breaking the system because you can't handle life. You're breaking it because you can. You can see the waste. You can name the friction. You can ask for better. Think about what that actually means. When you ask for flex time, clear goals, and room to recover, you're building a place where executive function can do its job. Plan, start, switch, finish, even for people who never had the words, just the stress. Research shows your group is reshaping success around meaning, not just status. Drop a comment and share your story. Hit like and subscribe because we dive deep into psychology that actually explains how your mind works.